Hare.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to welcome you as we join together. My name is Bryan Dick, and I'm with the Musicians Cafe podcast. And it's quite an honor for me today to be with someone who has spent a lifetime following his passion, a passion of providing music and fun and laughter and friendship to everyone out there. And I'd like everyone to please welcome Marv Ashby. Marv, so good to be with you today, sir.
Thank you, Bryan. Thanks for being here for me today, too.
Oh, my.
Yes.
I'm
always
just
great to see you. Yeah, always great to see you.
Such an honor, an honor. Marv has been a busy man here. He, of course, continues to follow his passion of music, but he also most recently finished up a book that he has. It's the Marv Ashby, My Musical Journey, a story of a Lefty's journey. A very, very wonderful read, and I definitely recommend it to everyone out there. Marv, to get started, I would have to ask you, this journey that you've had, if you could sum it up in a sentence, what do you think that sentence might be?
To sum it up in a sentence, I would say it's been an awesome time of my life.
Yes.
Though it has brought a lot of hardships in my life as well, but so does everything else in life, you know.
Sure.
But for the most part, I'm just so blessed that God gave me the opportunity to take my music and pursue it as much as I have, and I try to give some of it back every now and then. I'll team up with one of the old timers I played with years ago, and we'll go to the nursing home, and there's where you get to see the gratefulness of what your music brings. They roll them out, they have no clue where they're at, but once Vernon would sing a song, they just light switches go off. They know the song, they clap, they sing. So that's a way I feel that I give something back, you know, that was given to me. You know,
it's a universal language.
Yes, absolutely.
It is absolutely universal language.
It is.
And you're still quite busy with your passion. You may not get as many shows as you used to, but you still, in your mind, you're still your burning desire is to still have music in your life, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's still there. In the last 2 years, we've been able to put a CD out each year with the bluegrass, and now I'm in the studio working where I'm trying to do digital songs that will be available in the market, at least one a month, you know, and that helps my mental therapy with the health issues I have. So
right. Well, it's so good that you're still doing it, and we're surrounded by your story, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But your home speaks volumes about the journey that you've been on. It's so impressive. Your life started by you and I having conversations in the past and reading the book. Your life started music early. You had an early influence with your grandfather and your father. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. When I was 6 years old, and it's my first time that I remember seeing my grandfather have this instrument in his hand. You know, I probably didn't even know it was called a guitar at the time, you know.
Right.
But him and some of the others were in the room, and they're just making this music, and it just swept me off my feet. It's like that is what put the music in my heart and soul, I should say, because from that moment on, I knew this is what I had to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew that's what I was going to have to do. Because I could remember, and we only got to visit my grandfather where he lived twice a year, and then he would visit down here twice a year.
Right.
So it was always, when he came, it was always about the music and everything they're playing it. But I could remember as 6, 7 years old running around humming the songs that he was playing because I already had them burned into my head, you know. And so that was great. He was, I guess I would say, like my idol, you know. I learned as much as I could from him. I wish I was closer to him, that I could have learned a whole lot more.
Yeah.
You know, because he was a good flat picker.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
When you were young, and your book talks about this. Again, you and I have talked about it. You found out at an early age that you were left-handed.
Oh, yeah.
Even at that time, you even mentioned that a teacher tried to correct you for being left-handed.
Absolutely, yeah. Mrs. Donica, my first grade teacher, every time I would put the pencil in my left hand, she'd bring a ruler over and smack my hands and make me put it in my right hand. But I would never give in to it, And then there was times that she'd get so upset at me, she would just grab me, throw me under her desk, and I had to stay there the remainder of the class. It's like all because I wanted to be left-handed. I was left-handed, So so that's the way it stayed. And being left-handed, it's a right-handed person's world. It's, everything you buy, tools, whatever, it's all right-handed. We have to compensate, make adjustments and things. And then when it comes to buying instruments, we pay almost double than what a right-handed person pays because, as you get the same old song and dance, they're only going to make 25 this year, and they're only going to be in 2 colors where you guys get 35 colors.
That's true, yeah.
So it makes it different. But, and then as when I went to get my first good guitar, G&M Music in Winchester, the old fella there, I can never remember his name, but a nice man. But when I walked in there that day and I said, he said, "What can I help you with?" I said, "Well, I'm here to get a left-handed guitar." He said, "Son, there's no such thing. You need to play right-handed." And I'm like, "Oh." So I ended up buying a right-handed guitar, and then when I finally got it, I switched everything around. And then it never plays right. It never tunes right. Then, you got to change the nut on it. The bridge is different. Everything's different on it,
Understood,
So, yeah, so it makes it tough,
And then from there, you basically had to teach yourself.
Yes, self-taught.
You talked about buying books and learning out of a book.
That's the Mel Bay books.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, it was just your basic, open chords and things like that. When you really got to thought you was really tough, that's when you got to know them bar chords. And then, you could put a little fuzz behind that in an amplifier. You was a rock star then, It's like, that opened up a new box,
The concept of that is interesting to me because I think for younger people that might be watching this or listening to it, whatever it may be, it's so accessible nowadays. You can literally log on and learn things.
Everything.
But in your day, it was that book, and even then you had to be reassured you were still understanding it correctly.
Right.
It was more than just reading it, right?
That's right. You'd almost had to have somebody else to play it to let you know that you was even doing it right. And then we had the old record player, and then if you slowed those records down too slow, they dragged, and then you was out of key, you wasn't in tune, and you would just constantly pick them up and put them back on, pick them up, put them on. And it was torture, but probably never learned to play a song ever right back then at all. But you had it close enough where you flew with it, you just went on with it.
But it's just it's interesting how that has evolved, thankfully, for younger players.
Yes.
But it was difficult.
The young generation today really has it made with all of that. They really do.
Yeah, left-handed and trying on top of that to. You spent time traveling back and forth to Parkersburg, West Virginia with your family and having get-togethers. And your first sort of venture into playing music with a group was in Americana or bluegrass type
bluegrass.
music. That's
where it started. And then kind of went more into country too. But then when I was 10 years old, I got that first transistor radio. And that WLS, that logo right there on that wall, Chicago Rock. You could tune it in at nighttime.
Right. Yes.
Oh yeah. You could tune it in.
Long distance.
And then you heard Three Dog Night and the Guess Who and Can He, Jimi Hendrix and when I heard that, it's like I got to play that. I got to play that because you could feel the beat. It made you move.
Yeah.
And so I ventured more into that, but that was a struggle too because most of my friends at that time, even in school, they were all still the country folks,
Right, right.
We do all the old Merle and Johnny Cash and, just Stonewall Jackson, stuff like that, just old country, which is good music. I still love it to this day.
Sure.
It compares nothing to what this stuff they have today. And that's just my opinion of it. I wouldn't walk across the street to see that, but I'd walk across the street to see Hank Williams Jr. All my rowdy friends have settled down now, But anyway, that's just my preference, you know.
It was about that time that you're speaking of, that your transition from sort of the bluegrass into
Yes.
you know, rock struck you.
Yeah.
You wanted to play rock and roll. And that was a couple of things you found out about that. First of all, you found out about the inner workings of being
Yes.
in a group or a band, which is not easy, as you
Not
well
easy.
know. You know, and
No.
then also talk to me a little bit about how you knew at that age. Even you had mentioned it when you were born, but at that age, how driven you were.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people at that age, Marv, play and then
Yeah,
they let it go.
They let it go.
But you never have.
And I know a lot of folks like that. I know a lot of folks I've played with that will hit it hard for a year and a half, and then it stays under their bed.
Yeah.
And they never touch it for 10 years.
Why do you think it was different for you?
I think it's just it just comes to the heart, you know. It's that driven passion that maybe you want to be the entertainer, even though I never thought of that. Like when I was a kid, you know, when you had to get up in front of the class and do an oral book report, I'd rather take a beating and skip school that day instead of do that. But
Sure.
give me my guitar, I'll go over and play for 2,000 people, you know. So I think the entertainer part of it, and then just having that passion that is fueling you. You want more.
Sure.
You know, I've been told it's been an obsession, but I had never felt that way. You know, it's just, I always felt it was something I had to do,
Right.
and I do to this day. You know, it's a little more struggle for me, but I still want to. I think I mentioned last year on the podcast, if I could be on the road right now and gone, I'd be gone. You know, I would be gone.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, it's just that's what I want to do. You know.
At that age,
Yes.
you know, high school age, were you already writing songs at that point?
I wrote a few songs back then. I've never been much of a songwriter. Like I would have friends like in the early Desperado bands, which was probably the first good rock and roll band in '77 that we put together. I wrote a couple songs and the music, but most time the drummer, Brian Holt, he had wrote most of the songs, and then I would come up with the music. We would get together after rehearsal, and then we would thrash it out how we wanted, you know.
Right.
So I never put much effort in the songwriting, which would have been nice if I did, because that's really where all the bucks are. You know, if you write one good song and you got hundreds of people to record it, that's your money, you know.
Yeah, that could be.
But I was just always happy as a guitar player. Even to this day, I never feel that I want to be a singer. I never wanted to be a singer. I don't like singing. I do it because I remember an old feller told me one time years ago, he said, son, everybody can play a guitar, but if you can sing a little with it, you'll go a lot further with it, you know. And he's right, whether you sing good or not, you know.
Right.
But so anyway, that forces you into more singing, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, it just you know, that was the you know, songwriting only limited to it. And in Stormtrooper days, I wrote a couple songs there, and then Black Hawk did too, and in fact that one today gets still a lot of airplays, you know.
Understood.
On the digital side. So
Do you remember,
Excuse
or
me.
maybe you still do this, but when you're writing your own song, your own lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to putting music to somebody else's lyrics, is there one that feels more easy?
Well, the hardest thing today I come across with that is whatever you come up with, it almost sounds like something else that had been done over the past 40, 50 years, you know?
Right,
And that's
right.
you got to stay away from, because it's such a small margin, you know? I used to tease my youngest son everything they wrote. I always picked on him. I said, that sounds like Black Sabbath, you know, and that was an inside joke, you know. It wasn't, but I could hear little pieces of what Tony Iommi was doing on the guitar, you know.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's what makes it tough. Like I had just wrote a song 3 years ago with my first rounds of chemo. I was sitting in a chair. The door had just opened 3 years ago, and it was just an all dark room. I knew I was going into it. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how long I would be here. And you know, you watch that stuff drip in your port for 5 hours. And I wrote a song, and so I finally was just able to get to the studio last month to record it. It's being mixed and mastered now, so it should be released here soon. But that was easy for me to write that one because I'm telling you a story of what I'm going through right now.
Sure, right.
See, it's like this is real shit here, you know. This is what I'm going through, and it ain't whistling and Dixie no picnic, you know. So
Understood.
it's just so I found that one was pretty easy to write, and I made it an upbeat blues song. I didn't want, you know, because you know with cancer and chemo and all that and death, it's just sad times,
Sure.
you know. And I want somebody to dance across the floor with chemo blues instead of laying there and sucking on 5 beers, you know.
No, that's
like,
right.
oh gosh, he's killing me, you know. It's like, yeah. So I want to try to keep it going, you know.
You want them to feel like you felt
Yes.
music made you feel in your lifetime.
But as a songwriter, no, I never dabbled a whole lot with it.
Is that right?
You know? Yeah. I left it always to somebody else to do.
Understood.
And in the bluegrass band, we've never wrote anything in the 14 years of Marv, Ashby, and Hare team. We just play the standards because our audience is drawn to those standards. That's what they like. And a lot of times, if you play a lot of originals, they don't relate to it because they've never heard it, you know.
Sure.
But when our audience is our age, you know, they know Foggy Mountain Breakdown, that Bonnie Clyde, you know. It's like, yeah, shoot them up, you know. So, and we play it upbeat so it keeps them toe tapping, you know.
And that's the whole idea.
That's the whole idea.
That's the
Make
whole
them feel it, you know. Make them feel it.
Back in the day, if we want to call it that,
Yes.
You were going against your family's traditions a little bit by playing rock and roll. Is that right? I mean,
Oh, yeah. My father was diehard bluegrass and country, and anytime any of my friends would come over, if it was summertime, we were allowed to play outside.
Is that right? Okay.
On the shelter. But if it was wintertime and we'd be in the basement right underneath where he watched TV, it didn't fly, you know. He always called it devil music. He just had no part of it, you know. No, when it come to supporting rock and roll, it was not.
It's not there.
No, he just never had anything good to say about it. But if I played the bluegrass, then he was fine with that.
He was fine,
you know?
right, yeah.
And I did manage in 95, after the Black Hawk Band shut that down a couple years later, I went back to the bluegrass. A year before he passed away. He passed away in 96. So he was happy camper. He
Right.
would come over every Friday night and listen to me pick the guitar, you know, because I was playing a lot of my grandfather's tunes, and, you know, my grandfather had already passed away. So it was like memory lane for him,
Yeah,
you know. So it was
I bet.
good, you know.
I bet.
But,
And you're playing, you mentioned there's several bands in there. We could talk about Stormtrooper was one of the bands.
Stormtrooper.
You were learning, your passion for music at that time had to be burning red hot. Am I right? I mean,
It was. Yeah, I feel in the 80s, probably in the early 90s, probably my guitar playing was the best that it had ever been. I think now as I've gotten older, with the stamina and then having health problems on top of it,
Right.
it's a little more struggle for me to like really try to stay on top of it and be lightning fast. But you know, I still get around. But no, back in those days, yeah, man, it was like, man, really eat, sleep, and breathe rock
That's
and
what you
roll,
did.
man.
Now, you still got a pretty good head of hair, but in those days,
yeah, it was a lot
you had
more
the look
hair.
too, did
Yeah,
you not?
Yeah, I had the look too. Yeah, I had to have that part too.
of
you know?
course, had to look the
Yeah,
part. That was so important back then.
Yeah.
Talk about those days a little bit. That you played anywhere you could, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
and you
Yep.
practiced as much
Yes.
as you could, and you learned as much as you could as you went. Am I right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, when Stormtrooper started, it was basically a classic rock, southern rock band, and we back in those days we were playing a little corner and the Silver Dollar and all traditionals over in front row, and there was another joint, Brooks Inn and Golden Horseshoe. You know, we would play in all those, and of course, really, the money back then is not much more than they're paying us
And
today.
that's so
You know,
funny.
that's
Yep.
the sad part of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, but play all your life and you're still making peanuts. You know, but anyway, so we did that, and that was a good run. It was a good run, but we got caught up right in the mid '80s when the hair metal bands started coming on.
Yeah.
MTV debuted.
Yep.
And I remember at the Underground, we was playing there one night, and the man came up to us. He says, "I don't know what to tell y'all." He said, "Nobody wants to hear this AC/DC stuff now." And he said, "People want to hear like We're not going to take it by Twisted Sister or Last in Line by Dio. And,
Right.
and then so it's like, okay, so what are we going to do, you know? So we took some time off and went back into the basement and started rehearsing, you know, playing Accept. We didn't do much Metallica back then because they were there, but they weren't as hot as they was to the later 80s by the time we folded up. But we would do Saxon, Y&T, like I say, Twisted Sister, Rat. It kind of stayed on that line, you know.
Right.
And but then, you know, we lost a good drummer from that. He did not want no part of that stuff because he was older school than I was. You know, he was 10 years older than I was. So he's like, nah, I ain't playing this stuff, you know. So then we had to start searching drummers. And it took probably a year before we finally settled in on a drummer, which was Kelly. Not Kelly. I'm trying to think what his last name is. Ain't that awful? But anyway, Kelly, right there in Winchester. Mm-hmm. He picked up the drumming. So then we had the like the whole stage thing too. So like my friend Ronnie Nesrod that played in the bands, the other guitar player. We would take cardboard boxes, refrigerator boxes, and we make all these castle walls out of them with all the Grim Reapers in behind bars and stuff, and had big cobra with lidded eyes and all this stuff. So we played that whole part of it, you know. But I was never that guitar player, you know. I never. That was not my style. I had to work so hard at it. I just didn't have that kind of playing in me, you know. I'm just more of a good, you know, Southern rock, you know, up to into like Johnny Winter and stuff like that, you know.
Gotcha.
I'm not into Inge Malmsteen and all those guys, you know. And like Judas Priest, we played a lot of Judas Priest back then, and KK and Glenn Tipton, they're great guitar players.
Absolutely,
I love them, man. But that still wasn't my style either. See, it's just so it was different, and so it got to the point where we basically got burned out with it, you know. And then that's when that was shut down in '88 when I shut that band down. And then there was some transitions in my personal life with going through the divorce and stuff.
Right.
And
that's about the time I met you, I believe.
Yes.
That time.
Yeah. And
you had mentioned in your book, Marv, about, and you touched on it there simply, so I just want to kind of bring it back to that. The beginnings of understanding the workings of a band, seeing bands come and go, and guys become disenchanted with it.
Yes.
That's a constant
thing,
right? Even up until bands you've had more recent. Is that
Absolutely.
correct?
Yeah, you remember the old stores in downtown Winchester when you walked in them and they go round and round and let you out the other side?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, you might as well put one in your rehearsal room because that's what happens.
Have you changed anything about yourself because of that? In other words, a lot of times bands are very driven because they have exactly the vision they want to be.
Yes.
And it's hard to get people to go to that same vision. But have you changed at all about that?
Yes. What I have changed, the most that I had changed with that was probably in like the last 8 years. I don't allow myself to get super close to the bandmates anymore.
Really?
Because it's like, you know, you got a good thing going, the music's there, everything's working. And then when they pull the plug on you, it just breaks your heart, you know, because you got more emotional feelings invested in it, you know, whether you would go fishing or you would go do this or whatever. And so I found myself, I have to disengage myself from that line. In other words, you're here to play the music. We'll have a great time. We'll have our big dinner after the show. We'll support each other. But, you know, I'm not going to come down and paint your house for you, you know. It's just not going to happen. Because, and then you got to be careful. The ones that you really put a lot of faith and heart and soul into and friendship, they'll throw you under the bus real quick. Right? Yeah. They'll do it. You know.
Yeah, it's a strange working.
It is. That's for sure. It really is.
By the time you got to the end of the 80s, you had mentioned that you had sort of put bands to the side. Yes. I know you and I met because you were out doing sound, and you band sound for a band of mine at one time, and you were sharing your craft and sort of taking some time away. But then out of that rest, Black Hawk was born. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, Black Hawk became before the sound.
Oh, did it? I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I had it backwards.
Yeah, that came in the early '90s, and that was just, you know, it wasn't planned to be, but you know, I've always wanted, you know, felt that it was one of the bad boys of Southern rock, and that's always loved it, you know. And another friend of mine approached me, and another friend approached me. He's like, man, we need to put something together like that. And we did. And it turned out to be a superior band because, you know, we got to travel a lot with that band. And the thing too, and some people would not agree with me on it, but immediately with the Black Hawk Band being Southern rock, we fell right into the biker organization. And I mean, they supported us, they paid us good, they protected us, and we just showed up and played, and that was good. And they kept us busy, see?
Right.
Or, you know, I know, like, you know, there's all kinds bad things said about them too or whatever, but they were all good for us, and it gave us steady work, you know. And we had a good band, but the thing there just had a couple young ones in the band. Maturity is the biggest issue, you know, especially when you're the ones that a couple of us that, you know, have already, you know, cut our teeth with it, you know, and what the bands are happening. And so it created a lot of problems, and, you know, love them to death, but it finally got to the point after, well, I guess, see, up until 90, trying to think what year, let's see, 93, 4, 5. Somewhere it's probably about 95, I guess, is when I shut that band down. And then I was like, never have another band again. I am done with this shit. I am not doing no more, you know.
Wonder how many times those words have been spoken.
Oh, yeah, many times. It's like, I will not eat, you know, drink a glass of chocolate milk ever again. Right. Okay. So.
And you guys actually recorded some music during the time of Black Hawk, too.
We could only scrape up, I want to say at that time, it was like maybe $450. And we packed all of our shit in my old work van, and we drove all the way to Tyson's Corner. There was a studio down there called Q Recording Studio. And we got there early, you know, because it was like one-day deal. That's all we had. We didn't have no money. I don't even think we even had money to eat on that day. Probably lucky we had money to get gas to get back home. But anyway, we rolled in there that morning. That guy at the studio set us all up, split us all up. And we only had 5 songs. That's all we had ready to do, you know, and we'd already been playing them. See, we just didn't have money to do more.
Sure.
That was the biggest downfall of that CD is it didn't have enough songs on it, you know. 5 is just a taste, you know. If I had 5 more, it would have been much better. So we rolled in there, and I think it was like 1, 2 in the morning before he finally had it all mastered. And we pretty much nailed it. There might have been a couple times where somebody would have had to take a retake or something, and that was on the old analog tapes then too. You know, it was. I think he was 32 track analog. You know,
wow.
Big, huge board. I mean, I think it was as wide as this whole room. But it worked out good. You know, but at the time also, CDs was on the way out. Everybody said no more CDs, or no, CDs was on the way in. Records were on the way out.
Sure.
So they talked us into putting it on cassettes, and you know that's just you know what cassette is. So it wasn't until it sat idle. You know, up until 2019, when I was in the studio doing the Hometown Blues CD, I asked Will, the engineer, I said, can you remaster this tape and let me get it on CD? And I did. He did for me. Wow. So I was able to put it out on CD. So now it gets played all around the world. And, you know, I don't have to do nothing to promote it. It's there, you know. There.
That's right.
So it's for 5 songs, it does pretty good, you know. But, yeah, I would love to have a lot more on that, you know. But it just the funds wasn't there, and it's gotten to the point, you know, even with the last 2 CDs I did with Octane last year and this year, if it wasn't for the sponsors, they wouldn't happen either, because put a CD out, you're talking $6,000, you know,
right?
You know, and the thing too, you can put all the music online you want. The best place that it's going to sell is if you go play that show tonight and sell it at the merchant table. There's where you make your bucks, you know, because everybody else is ripping your stuff off the internet. You put a song out there, somebody done stole it, they ain't buying it from you. And then when they do, you know, if it's a cover tune, you get a penny for it, 2 cents maybe. So it's just, you got to play the shows and sell your merchandise. That's where the money's at. And,
at this point in your journey,
yes,
for those of you who are following out there, we are roughly 17, 18 years into you being a musician of some sort, right?
Yeah.
You've played a lot of shows, a lot of bands.
Shows, yeah.
but the biggest and best is yet to come
Yeah.
in your journey as
Yes.
far as shows and travel and meeting people.
Yeah.
But that break, Marv, that you took from being a musician after Black Hawk, do you feel at that time, do you remember feeling like, you know, I've done as much as I need to do at this point? Or was there any sort of thought of, you know, I'm probably not going to do that anymore? Or were you just kind of catching your breath?
Just catching my breath, because I was just discouraged with how Black Hawk went down when it was a good band, because we had a chance to go to Europe, and that got messed up from one of the young boys in the band.
Right.
So there was a lot of opportunity for us. So I got discouraged with it. And then I needed to build this house. And, you know, but then after that, then I got hooked up with some of the old timers here. And then I, you know, had got back into bluegrass, and played a 3-hour show every Saturday morning for 3 years at the Hancock over at the Bridge Restaurant.
Right on the right.
So it done come back, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't have no plans on starting the Hot Octane band, but 14 years ago, I just had people kept saying, "Oh, you need to go out there and do a show there. They've been wanting to hear you, you know." And then that's how that all started. No intentions to start a band, but the Hot Octane for 14 years has been the best. Really, I mean, I love my rock and roll. Don't get me wrong, but it has been the best to me. It was a struggle in the beginning. We played every hamburger joint up and down the East Coast for a burger just to get in there and put one CD on the table, hoping that we sell something or we get another booking, you know. So it turned out in the end it was good, and it makes money, you know. The
thing at Hancock got your juices flowing again, got you refocused then, more or less.
And then some of the old timers there, they had a band called Green Ridge Mountain Boys. So the next thing I know, I was in their band, you know, going out and playing their gigs, and that was fun. Like I say, that kept my momentum going, you know.
Right. I gotcha.
So, and it just, I don't know how to walk away from it, you know. I guess when the good Lord takes me away from here is when I'll walk away from it. And maybe they'll have a left-handed guitar up there in heaven somewhere for me, you know.
Well, we need you for a while down here, so don't get in a big hurry, all right? Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But so you determined, or life determined for you how things fall.
Yes.
You revolve full circle back to bluegrass.
Yes.
You're out. You've known a lot of people from the past. You're meeting a lot of people, and what told Marv to start a band? What was it that made you want to have High Octane or whatever it was in the beginning?
It's getting the fever.
Yeah.
When I'm not playing, don't take me to listen to no band. Don't not take me to listen to no band.
That happened a couple times in your life.
Oh, many times. Yeah, many times. Because it's like it just makes the fever. It just sets it off. Because I'm sitting there saying, that needs to be me. I need to be up there. I don't need to be out here. I need to be up there. And that's where I end up going.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So, and that's what brings me my pleasure, you know.
The genre of bluegrass, let's talk about that for a little bit, because bluegrass was born out of the early part of the previous century. Mm-hmm. It was grown out of Appalachia, rural settings for folks that came from all over the world. So there's a little blending of instruments that aren't necessarily native to America. But it was all blended together to become an American product.
Right, American product.
And it grew, from Jimmy Rogers on, or even before Jimmy Rogers maybe, but those early roots. And I guess what I'm getting at, Marv, is bluegrass has been a constant. It's never been maybe at the forefront of popularity in the world, but the roots of that music are so deep, and the people that are so involved in it are so loyal to it. What do you think it is about that music that speaks so loudly to you and to others that are such fans of it around the world?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to the heartfelt of it, you know. It related to people having hard times.
Understood.
You know, very poor. Might have been working coal mines, butchering animals or whatever. It relates to a hard time of life that they had, and they had to write about it and sing about it, you know. And today we have what we call newgrass. I think it's more keen set up for the younger generation, and people may argue with that statement I just made, but that's just the way I see it. they're trying to captivate the younger audience but it does not have that feeling that the old stuff has, because like you said, it's so rooted in.
Yes.
If you hear old Joe Clark, it's about the old man Joe Clark. That's who he was, Uncle Dave Macon. It's about all those old guys. And it just it goes on and on. The Carter family.
Yes.
When they showed up and made all their records right there in the grass yard, one cut deals.
Right.
But they sung about Worry Man Blues and the Wildwood Flyer and just everything that related to them in life that they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it heartfelt, I think. And a blues song, we jump off that to a blues song. If it's a slow, teary song, well, that's just relating because your wife or your girlfriend just kicked you to the curb and now you're in the bar crying to everybody. So that's heartfelt too, but a different heartfelt.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Bluegrass is a very visual music. Would you agree? Because it's easy for any of us to tune in and listen to bluegrass, and you hear the picking and you hear the playing and the different instruments. But when you go see it live, I think maybe more than maybe any other kind of music, Marv, I want your take on this. It's visually very enjoyable to watch.
Right. It's got to be entertaining.
You figure out the musicianship that goes into being a bluegrass musician.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the speed, sometimes the picking and the fingering. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay. I think for one, we always like to refer to be as put on as a entertaining show as we can. We don't necessarily have to burn everything up 100 miles an hour, but make you feel the music. And then we work around 2 mics. So we're constantly moving in and out, and that's entertaining to watch instead of the bands. And again, I'm not judging, but it's just my preference, my take. But when you're lined up across the stage, and we've been that way, we go to Wheeling Jamboree to play the Jamboree. Well, even though we play around 2 mics, first thing Dave Heath wants to do is spread us out on stage. Well, I can't interact now with the banjo because he's way over here, So you got to rely on the monitors. But if we're right there in that huddle, he takes his break, he steps out, and I come in, and vice versa. And it just moves. It just keeps it moving. And then, we all become characters,
Yeah.
And it's just the entertaining part of it.
Right.
It's just, it's always good to see, Angus Young, run across all them speakers. I don't think he does much of that anymore,
We've all gotten older.
Last time I seen a picture of him, he's gray hair. I was like, oh, Angus, you're getting old too, bud.
Oh, my. Our heroes are doing that too.
Yeah, but they don't run around too much anymore either, But yeah, it's just, I think if you can keep everybody close-knit and work together instead of spread out, then I always feel you interact better with everybody.
Right.
It's just a good moving pace show.
You were quite busy by the time High Octane came around. You had a vision of this band doing what you did, which was stay busy.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that because there's a lot of inner workings out there. One of the things that stuck out in the book, Marvin, that I didn't know was you spent some time actually teaching guitar playing and in the public school system, as a matter of fact.
Frederick County Schools.
That had to be so rewarding, was it not?
It was. It really was. And I got a drawer full of cards back there. And I think I even got some probably, what do they call them, hamburger meals that they give the kids. I got a couple coupons back there. Get one of the Happy Meals or whatever they're called. But anyway, no, it was good. The thing of it is that the very first night, I could single out the ones that wanted to be there and the ones that didn't want to be there.
Sure, yeah.
But for the most part, the kids, they would learn. And I just started them out at all the basic stuff and teaching them what each thing on the guitar was. Then we got into knowing the strings and then how to tune, because they had never had a guitar, So it was a good gig. I did one night a week at Gainesboro School and the one out at Evendale at Armel, So the only thing is just they didn't pay much for all the running that was involved. But
sure.
But most part, both classes, they did good. They appreciate it. And these kids were probably, Oh, they're probably 8, 9-year-olds like that, you know. But then you got one, you know, that he'll just stand there. It's like he didn't learn nothing. He didn't want to learn nothing. Because one evening I said, "Hey, did you play video game all weekend?" "Yeah, I did," he said. I said, "That's why you don't know what's going on with the guitar right now," you know. But anyway, I did that for a while, and when it came up for renewal, the money was not good enough, and then I, you know, had enough going on.
You were busy.
Yeah, I was busy.
Yeah.
So because I had another friend of mine up in Bedford, he put on a show every Wednesday night at the arena or the Carriage House, and if I was available, I'd run up and play his show with him too. That was a lot of fun too, you know.
Right.
So it was just a lot of running, and no more than they paid. I was like, well, I'm just gonna step out of it for a little while.
But it was a good avenue, though, right? You shared your passion,
yes,
and that was so important.
And I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed it, you know. Yes.
Yeah, and then you had a high octane, and you guys were, as you mentioned, you were ready to go out and just play anywhere you could.
Yeah.
You had so many things going on in your mind at that time. I had to, because you talk about in the book that you'd always wanted a tour bus.
Oh yeah.
And you went out and you got a tour bus.
I got the bus too.
And your whole life you talked about you wanted to play up and down the East Coast. You did that. So this is when it hit full gear, right?
Yeah, that's when. Yeah, it's full gear. You know. Yeah, I always wanted a tour bus because the thing with having a band is like if nobody rides together and the show's tonight at 7:00. Sometimes somebody's going to show up late, you know.
Sure.
And that starts off your night real bad, okay? Especially if you're on stage and you're ready to play now and you got to wait on somebody. So I always figured, even before the bus, I would try to haul everybody. You know, especially being on the road, you had to. But local, I would still do that. Because I figured if we broke down, we ran out of gas, your car blew up, we're all going to get there at the same time. That's it, because we're all late. You know, we're not all standing around waiting on somebody to show up. So, and then we just got tired of all the motel rooms every week, you know.
Sure.
So then that's when I pursued the bus, and that was a good deal. It's a big expense. I had to learn a lot about a bus, you know, a lot of stuff I did not know about a bus.
Because your first journey didn't go so well, is that right?
No,
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we got loaded up, cut out here early on Wednesday morning because we had a show in Lexington, Kentucky that night, and so we got down there, did the show, and then we normally would camp out on Walmart parking lots because, you know, we would go and spend money for supplies and stuff. So Dempsey, our driver, he fired the bus up. It was time to head over to Nashville. And I was standing there and I was like, what is all this stuff running out of the back of the bus, you know? And so I told Dempsey, I said, shut that thing down. So I opened up the engine doors, and here was one of the stainless steel diesel lines that had been rubbing against the block. It had a hole in it, and all the diesel fluid was just pouring out on the ground.
Oh, my.
So then we had, you know, of course, you ain't got no other vehicles. So of course, we was in the shopping center area, so we could look across the street, you know, and down the street, and we found like an AutoZone. We went over and got parts and patched it all up. So then we made it okay that night, got on into Nashville, got out of there, and then we was hit at Collinsford, Tennessee for a show. And then we had to be in Knoxville on Saturday morning. So we rolled in real late from Collinsford, Tennessee on that Friday night, parked on the Walmart parking lot, got ready. Our show was at 10 o'clock. It was a live radio show.
Yeah.
So we go to fire the bus up, and it's like, nothing. Just push the button, nothing. It's like, you know, and we were trying to make sure it's in neutral, you know, because it didn't have no key. You know,
Sure.
It's just, you flip the switch and you push the button. So I'm franticing, you know, and I'm running around the bus. I carried an old pair of clothes with me and boots because everything you climb under that thing is going to be greasy, you know, and you only got so much room underneath it anyway because you got to have it running in order to get the bags up. So you have room to get underneath it. And that leads to another story one night too. But anyway, so I'm running around the bus checking things. I called the original owner down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Oh, he said, Marv, it's just got to be in neutral. That thing should start. And then, you know, we'd have people would stop in and say, oh, it's your starter badge, I had one big screwdriver, and one of the guys that stopped there, he he took it and jumped across that big 24-volt starter. And I mean, it shortened the screwdriver by that much. It's like, no, it ain't the starter.
Yeah.
It just ruined my screwdriver, you know. So anyway, so then I got a hold of the radio station and I told them we broke down sitting on the parking lot. So Dempsey, our bus driver, his sister and her husband lived outside of Knoxville. So they come in a pickup truck, threw us all in the back of the pickup truck, and that looked like Beverly Hillbillies going across town. Good thing it wasn't raining. So we rolled in, we did the show, and then we rolled back. And then I remember crawling underneath the bus, and then there's 3 huge bolts in this monstrous starter. And I got 2 of them out. And I was getting ready to take the 3rd one out. And then I was like, what am I doing? I don't even know if it's a start. I don't even know what I'm doing. You know, so I put the bolts in, tighten up. And then our mandolin player, Ashby, he come around the bus. He said, I'm going to call MCI. And I was like, shit, Albie, ain't nobody at MCI on a Saturday, boy. I said, we are stuck here, you know. And it wasn't long. He came back around the bus. He said, hey, Marv, I got the guy from MCI on the phone. And I thought he was jerking my chain. And so lo and behold, it was. And they have 24-hour, 365 days a week bus service. So I got the tech on the phone. I told him what was going on. He said, you open that back panel door on the bus. He says, there's a relay up in top. He said, if you jump that bus will start. And I did. It started right up.
Isn't that something?
So by the time we got it all running and got everybody cleaned up and got everybody back on the bus, we missed our show in Marion, Virginia that night, but we made it in for the one on Sunday.
Nice.
So first time out, and then on top of that, you know, we got the bus, and the original owner said, it's a good one. It gets 10 miles a gallon. Well, I don't know where we're at 10 miles a gallon, but we figured it was getting 5 miles a gallon because our first run halfway through burned $1,000 in diesel fuel. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to have sponsors to help out to run the bus, keep it on.
Yeah, I read that. It's brilliant.
And they were good. They were generous, you know. That's what kept it running.
Probably had a moment in there like, maybe this bus wasn't the best idea.
Many time, you know, and then, you know, you just get sometimes you get a little negativity from the other guys in the band. It's like, well, maybe we should just quit all this stuff. It's like, shit, no, I got stuff invested in this stuff, you know, we're going to make it work, you know. Y'all going to be out there pushing us to the next town, you know, I don't care. But, yeah, so it's just, there was a few stories, but they didn't have nothing major breakdowns. You know, we had an air compressor went out on the bus one time, and the alternator generator on the way back from New York started flagging the light, but we was able to get it here, you know, get it back home because the bus place said, he said, if you got 2 good batteries and no further than you got 30 miles, he said, you'll get there. So I put her in the wind, baby. She was coming down the road. It's like I turned all the outside lights off on it, you know, because it was right before dark. I didn't need all the overhead lights.
Right.
Neon lights and stuff. So
did you have moments, and I think of the cerebral side of it, Marv, when you're out on the road like that, and you have times when they're really good, and you have times that are not so great. We all understand that. But were there times where maybe it was at bed at night, or maybe step back on the stage or something where you said, I'm doing what I always wanted to do. Did you ever have those moments?
Yes, I did. And then sometimes you would have that saying, and then another night you'd have that saying with, but I'm paying the price for it. You know, really paying the price for it. Because sometimes the personnel, you know, you get everybody on the bus, a driver. Sometimes you just like to stop the bus and throw them all off, you know. It's like, see ya. I see you when you get back, you know. I'm out of here, you know. So there's times, you know, moments, that's the bad times. But, sometimes it gets nerve-wracking, you know. It's, you know, especially when you enclose that many people inside the bus, you know. You only got 40 feet of room inside. I had a master bedroom, but even when I've shut myself off, you know, you got to make sure everybody's eating, everybody's ready. So, you know, if we're running late because of traffic, that, you know, everybody's ready to roll off that bus and hit the show.
Right.
Well, then sometimes they wouldn't make a move to stop the bus, you know, and then that gets a little testy because I like to try to keep it rolling. You know, just keep it rolling. It's got to roll, you know, it's got to flow.
You mentioned in the book you logged I believe it was 22, maybe 25,000 miles.
That's in the very beginning.
In the very beginning.
Yeah, in a minivan.
And you were playing multiple shows every weekend?
Yeah, every weekend on the road. Just
exactly.
Go.
Planning and doing it all. And you were doing all the bookings and things yourself. Is that correct?
Yep, all that myself. Yeah, because most of the booking agencies, when they want to get a hold of you, they want their big cut. And then they're only going to offer you so many gigs. And then anything you got, they want a percentage what you already have.
Sure.
And I'm not paying them for what my work is, It's so I always stayed away from them.
Did you?
Because, what few I dabbled with, we really didn't get nothing no better than what I could have got,
Gotcha.
So,
but that's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work in the phones. A lot of
work.
Friends of a friend of a friend, that kind of thing. You're doing all this, traveling, playing, rehearsing, booking shows and everything, and you got to make a lot. You got to make a living, and
too.
You're a self-made man.
Yeah.
You're a carpenter by trade.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about like a weekly ritual for Marv in say 2010.
It would be like as furniture cabinet maker, third generation of it. So I come Monday, we get back in off the road, try to be in by Monday evening. Sometimes it'd be Sunday night late. But then on Monday, I would make the sawdust fly. Whatever the next day we got to roll, I would just be down there in that shop buried until I get my work done.
Right.
Have things set up so when I got back next week, maybe the cabinets or the furniture be ready to deliver. So it kept you going, and then it interfered with your personal life too. It's just you spread very thin. And that doesn't make it always agreeable to people. So
the sacrifices you made.
Oh yeah, the sacrifice you make. But I was just doing what I have to do, and that's the part. Another good friend of mine plays banjo, Tim Cooster. He's from up and around Freedom's, PA, and I got to see him at our show in July. We talked one day. We had a long talk, and it's about how when you're like this, we can't explain to you what makes it happen, what makes it tick, and why we have to do it. It's there. It's just hard to explain. This is the way it is. This is what I'm going to do. You're either in or you're not in. And it's like, don't mean to leave you behind or whatever, but it's tough to try to explain that to people because people will join golf club, play 5 games of golf a year, and that's it. But the club's in the closet or go fishing, 6 months a year. But music, if you can play every weekend, you play. You just keep going at it.
Yeah, and you really did have to work
to
be able to pursue what you loved.
It was all work.
It was a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, it didn't come easy. That's what I say. It's been all work. And like I say, it comes with sacrifices, hard times, hardships, and you hurt some people's feelings through the way, but it's just it's where I'm at today.
That's right.
So,
as you got more towards the ends of the 20 teens, 2019, things changed for you in different ways.
Yes.
Health issues. By the time COVID hit here in 20, not only were you all fighting COVID, but you had a heart attack.
Yes, I had a heart attack that messed up my electrical circuits. Wasn't from clogged arteries. And I really think to this day that because I was doing custom work in a house, and when I pulled that trigger on that miter saw and pulled down, that's when it happened.
Is that
It was just a quick pain right there. And I thought nothing about it because I belched later. I thought, oh, that's a gas pain. Boy, that was a doozy, So it wasn't until, 3 weeks later, there was several nights I would get up in the middle of the night and get dressed and I got to go to the emergency room. Something don't feel right. I'm not sick, but something don't feel right. So I finally got to the doctor. He just had me come in and do some blood work and stuff. And he said, and I told the nurse about it. And she was this little skinny nurse, very nice. And she's covered with tattoos all up and down her body. And she said, well, I'm going to have them do an EKG on you. But then the other lady said, well, the doctor won't be in till this afternoon. I said, well, I'll be back. And she threw her hand in my face and she said, you ain't leaving here. It's like, she probably didn't weigh 50 pounds, but she's like, you ain't leaving here,
that's right.
It's like, okay. So they threw me back there and they did that. And Doctor pulled the paper and said, get him to the hospital. So what happened was when the heart attack messed my heart up, my heart was only beating 26 beats a minute. That's why I was feeling so bad.
Goodness
I didn't know
gracious.
why. So then, it went into atrial flutter, they call it. And then in July 2021, I had to have a heart ablation surgery in Morgantown. So they fixed it. I still got coronary heart disease. It runs in my family, that does. But then 3 weeks later, I got slammed with, you got liver bile duct cancer. And it's like bang, bang, and that just floored me. It still floors me because it mentally and physically just wrecks your body and your mind.
Sure.
It really does. You think about it all night long when you're awake from pain all day long. And then through all the friends, family, and fans check on you all the time. It's just a repeat of the story. I'm so blessed to have everybody in my life like that because they care about you,
Right.
So I'm just at a point now that there's not really nothing much left for me. I just took 3 rounds of this Folox chemo cocktail drugs. It's about wiped me out over the last 5 weeks, and I told the doctor Friday that I'm not taking no more. So
Gotcha.
So we'll see what happens. I'll be here till good Lord takes me. That's the way it's going to be.
Your passion, music, sort of turned into your savior in a way, or sort of like your comfort zone.
That and a lot of praying, and a lot of praying from everybody
Takes
else.
your mind away from what's going on.
Yes, it does. And that's what I tried to explain to them, because it started out Monday when they were putting it in my port for 5 hours again. I told the one nurse, I said, I don't plan to come back till the end of September. She said, I don't know if you can do that. I said, well, I got some shows I want to play next month, and that's my mental therapy, And so they didn't want to do that. They wanted me to take 8 more rounds of it before I could take a break.
Right.
I'd be half dead because I already know how I'm feeling now from it, So anyway, but he was very compassionate with me on Friday, and we worked it out, and I'll be here until it's over, So, and I'll make as much music I possibly can until it's over.
I still
That's
think
my
you got
plans.
lots in you. That's
I
for
sure hope so.
Marvin, you and I spoke when I first sat down, and we talked about the book that you wrote, and it's just a fabulous, fabulous write. And I want to talk a little bit about you putting that together.
Okay.
I mentioned to you that when I was reading it, it reminded me of things that we do in our lives. For instance, what jumped in my mind, believe it or not, was a movie. And I know a lot of folks out there can relate to watching a movie, and my pick would have been the movie Sandlot. Don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but Sandlot was written many years ago in the early 90s, and it was about a bunch of kids and a baseball diamond.
Okay.
And the reason why it was such a popular movie was that as a kid growing up in the 60s or 70s, depending on when it was, you saw in the characters on that movie something that you could relate to. Either it was yourself in one of those characters or somebody that you hung out with that was in one of those characters.
Right. Yeah.
So the movie became very popular because of that. People related to that movie because of it. And when I read your book, I felt the same way. I would really recommend everybody to read this book because the journey that you lay out in here so well is so relatable on so many levels. The highs and the lows and the great, what was it about creating this book? Where was the seed planted about doing that?
Well, for all the years that I've been swinging the guitar and telling these people the crazy stories I've experienced on the road and shit, they'd be like, they always would say, well, you need to write a book.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, you need to write a book, And so then when I got sick, it's like I'm sitting here day after day, and it's like, maybe I should write a book, And it was hard to remember so much of that. And there's still things that, since the book came out, that should be in there, but I forgot all about it. It's just like another part that, I forgot all about that story. That'd been a good one put in there too, So that's what stemmed it, and I worked on it. And a good friend of mine, Maud Watson, she was my chief editor on it. And I reached out to her. Her family was book publishers for years. That was their business. And didn't know what her take was going to be on it. And she said, sure, I'd be excited to do it. I said, okay, because I know nothing about it, I can't even believe she could read my writing, But anyway, that's that's just kind of like how it started. It's like, well, maybe I should write a book. And then for my family and fans to see it too, it's like,
Sure.
like I say, there's a lot of things that was appropriate to write in the book that goes down in the music world, but you can always leave that out. That's what I call that. What do they call that? Trash stories, But something like Jerry Springer would do, And thinking of Jerry Springer, the funniest thing was 2 years ago when I got to come back to play my first show. There was a man, his name was Gene, I think Gene, his card's downstairs, what his last name was. But he came up to me. He said, I really like your music. He says, I run the podcast for Jerry Springer, and we'd like to have you on our show.
Wow.
So they were in Kentucky. And then next thing you know, 6 months later, Jerry Springer dies. So didn't get to go be on the podcast.
Oh, my.
I don't know what that had all been about. I don't know, but I thought that was something. Of all places, that was over at Bill's place where the Little Sturgis takes place.
Sure.
I mean, like say, of all places, you expect to run into somebody like that. This guy whips his card out, Jerry Springer podcast, and says, I'd like to have you on the show.
Right.
It's like, so anyway, but yeah, so there's, like I say in the book, it mostly was just the stories that I experienced, and people would say, "Oh, you need to write a book," And I
Staying the night in a haunted house.
Yeah, even the night of the haunted house. I mean, like, oh, what a deal that was. It's like I just didn't think we were gonna get out of there alive. It's like it's too creepy. It was like Alfred Hitchcock movie, but
what an amazing journey it's been. And as we'll see a little bit later, as we see the second part of this, when we get down to the museum part
we'll
that
go
you
to the
have,
museum. Yep.
It'll really sort of lay it all out. But one thing that I marveled at, and I made the comment to you downstairs earlier, was east of the Mississippi, you pretty much got them all. You really covered a lot of ground in your time and shared
millions of miles.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what I say. I miss it today, but I do know even though right now my present condition, my health wouldn't handle that.
Sure.
As much as my mind says I could do it, but my body right now says no, because even when I play a show today, it takes me 3 days to rebound from it,
Right.
To get my energy back, because you're so keyed up with adrenaline, you're so excited to be able to go out and play again, and then you got that downtime, and it's like, but it was worth it.
This is a mile marker.
Yeah, well,
this is a mile marker for you.
you.
And we've got more to the story that's going to be coming, and we'll see what that is.
Okay.
What did we miss early part on this interview? What did we miss that you thought?
Well, let's see. Well, I guess the one band that we didn't talk about, that was in the early 90s. No, not early 80s, I should say. That was the Smoky Hollow Band.
Yeah, you bring that up. Yes.
that was a consistent of some old outlaw country music and stuff like Prairie League, Panama Ritz, that kind of music, Get Back by the Eagles, but good dancing music,
Sure.
And they had a good following, Larry Hartman, his nickname was Shorty. He had started the band and then recruited me into it. And our old buddy from years ago, he's still in Winchester, Donnie Locke. You remember
sure.
Donnie? Donnie was part of that band in the beginning, but the rehearsal room we had was downtown, the old mall right on the corner of Piccadilly. At that time, it was called the Cornerstone Cafe, a bar there. But we was able to practice in the 3rd floor. So we had to carry Donnie's damned old organ up there in that Leslie tone cabinet. You got to go. We can't
weighed
handle
as much
this.
as a Volkswagen.
I know. It's like, and I was always one of the unfortunate ones that had to help carry that thing. But anyway, he had started out, and then my current fiddle player, Larry Crawford, he was in the band in the very early days, but then he didn't stay with it. He kind of stepped out of it. But then we had Kelly LaFollette on drums and Mike Stewart on bass. And sad to say, right now, I'm the only survivor left of that band.
Is that right?
Yeah. Shorty passed away, I guess 2 years ago. Kelly, the drummer, just passed away this year. And Mike passed away 2 years ago, too. But they were all good guys. We had a lot of good times.
I was going to say, a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. I remember, I think it's in the book, too. At one time, we was way up there in Cape Bridge, up top of the mountain, Bear's place. It's all gone now. And we was in there playing, and we come out of there, man, it snowed like hell. Oh, my gosh, it's so deep. And I got to my car, and then I dropped my keys. And you try to find keys in the snow.
Yeah.
Oh
Dark.
man, I had dark too. It's like, man, I was rubbing and rubbing all over that ground. I finally found them, and I just like, oh, pray, just get me home, to travel all that distance, But it was fun. We had a lot of fun with that band, and then they got to the point they were booking, and my youngest son was born in 80, and then we lost him in 82. He born in 81. I take it back. 81. We lost him in 82, and so I stepped away from the music again for a while, because it was just a rough time. So I went to see AC/DC at the Cap Center, and I just fired it all back up.
Fired it back
yeah.
up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that was a good group too. I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
That band.
Yeah. The behind the scenes stuff, the things that go on that people never find about it. That's where the real story is.
Oh yeah, that's where the real story is.
I would definitely think.
Yeah, and that's a lot of them that you can't tell. See, that's ones.
Yeah,
you got to keep them secrets. Yeah. Oh yes.
But
there's tons of them I could share with you, but we won't go there.
Well, Marv, I don't know if it's okay with you, but
yeah.
Maybe we could
go downstairs,
take downstairs and show everybody what you got and talk a little bit more down there. Would that be all right?
Yeah, we got plenty we can talk about.
Fabulous.
Or we'll make it up as we go. How about that?
Let's head down to the museum, everybody.
All right.
Marvin?
Yes, sir.
We're right here on the threshold of Route 9 Records and the museum that you have here. And let's just start from the beginning. Have you take us down and tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Sure. As I start putting all this into action, when it came to the steps, I didn't want to paint them or carpet them, so I got the idea one night to do them like piano keys, and then I had the idea to change the handrail over to guitar fretboards, just to change it up. And then this covers a lot of the show posters and the Blues TV show. One night at Backseat we got to do. This is an old guitar that belonged to my grandfather. I'd never seen him play it, but it was retired by the time I was born.
I gotcha.
So I was honored to have that.
Just a great way to enter a room. Such great things to look at. Really nice.
Well, thank you. And then, of course, I always liked Buck Owings. I was growing up in the 70s there. So I got the idea to get one of the tellies and have Mr. Travis Hess paint it for me, like Buck Owings. And then I couldn't figure out a place to put it. So one night again, it hit me. It's like, I'll just put it in the door. So I made a case, and there it is. It's in the door.
Well, it turned out great, and what a great place to put it. I mean, not everyone would think of that, but what a nice presentation that makes. My goodness.
Yeah, nobody gets to touch it unless the paint up either. So that's good.
That's awesome.
I figured I didn't need to play it. So. But and this is just...
This is musical overload down here. This is wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, all the amps are all classic from the 70s, and then every picture has a story to it from the road life. And I just started this year. I'll get y'all signed one, but back in May, one of the venues we play at, the whole ceiling is covered with dollar bills. So in May, I got the idea I would do it. So everybody's been here since May. He gets to sign a dollar bill, and I'll put it on the ceiling.
Well, we'll have to take care of that a little bit.
Theme here, But,
where do we start? I mean, there's so much stuff here that's so interesting.
We can start over in the acoustic room.
Okay.
This is where I house my acoustic guitars. And I also call this the art room, too, because all the artwork in there has been from fans that have painted them and sent them to me. So I put that in there. The walking sticks were made for me, too. And I inherited the old Victrola from my cousin when he passed away a few years ago, so that made a good addition.
Sure.
Too, So
it's such a fabulous display. I mean, Taylor's, Martin's, just such beautiful guitars, and these are all ones that have stories with them, right?
Oh yeah, they all got stories with them. Yeah, and of all the acoustics I got, the Ovation is probably my worst one. I always liked it. When we seen John Denver play it.
Sure, yeah, they were
that
striking.
Back, you don't put a strap on, it slides off your lap, and then if you got a belly and you stand up play it, it makes the guitar stand straight out, so it's uncomfortable.
Is it really?
Yeah, I did one recording with it Before You Accuse Me. It's on a digital download.
Wow. cigar box that you have here. Someone made it for you, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna do a recording with that. Just hadn't got to that yet either. There's a lot on the list to do, but so yeah, this originally was gonna be a bathroom, and it's like, man, the guitars look better in a mode, you know?
Well, I would have to agree with you. You've done a fabulous job.
Them upstairs, what I need another one down here for, you know.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But all this has been years into making, you know. It just didn't happen overnight, and it evolves and it changes every month. There's either new stuff, memorabilia stuff that comes in, and then some gets shifted upstairs, and and so on. So I just keep adding, you know.
That's fabulous. And the room we have here, you had mentioned to me earlier, this is an exhibit of 70s sound equipment for guitarists specifically. But there's evolutions of, you know, here's an early PD, here's the next session, whatever it may be.
Yeah, like this PD standard here was the first one that they came out with. It has the matching serial number on the head and cabinet, and it has the 610s, which my whole time of coming up playing music, I never seen a 610 cabinet.
Right.
You know, until I bought this from a guy in Carlisle, PA. And then through the years, they came out with a second version of the standard. I had that here in the next room. It didn't have the master volume on it, you know, the gain. And then they came out with this one in 77, I believe. And this is more a rocker. And I was able to locate one more of those 610 cabinets in Akron, Ohio, several years ago, and ran up there and bought it. Because what I was always used to in all the music stores, like Melody and G&M and Chuck Levin's, all them guys, they were all 212s, 410s.
Right,
That's
exactly,
it,
right. Yeah, the 610s are much more rare, I would think.
Yeah, so it's like, man, they're pretty collectible. And then I love my Fender Silver Faces, you know. I basically just need one more to complete the collection of Fender Deluxe, and then I have them all from the 70s.
Such a classic look.
But they're all sought after, and they keep going up in price, you know. So.
And it's like an athlete with game-worn jerseys. These are all used by you, right?
Yeah.
You've had them, played them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fabulous, man.
Yeah,
and they could, if they could talk, they could tell great
tell stories.
Sure.
like when Fender, Leo Fender had left the Fender Corporation, then some of his engineers went to Arizona and they started this amp here, Ames. And in the 70s, there was a dealer, Arts Music, in Thomasburg, Virginia, that sold the Ames amps.
Is that right?
It was short-lived, because then Randall came along and bought them out. But it's the same circuitry in that amp right there, 610s, as it is in the Fender Super 6 with 610s.
That's fine. That's fabulous.
Yeah, so, but they're sweet. I love the tube sound. You know, it's just like, it's what, you know, to me, that's what I like.
I was going to say,
old school, you know.
We're talking equipment that's, 40 plus years old. Some of these cabinets. Nowadays, it's stuff's lighter. It's not near as. But like, do you think the sound has evolved as well?
No, I don't. Again, that's just my not argument, but my disagreement. I know everything's so high tech, computerized, and a lot of the younger generation. Mentioned my youngest son. He really feels it is like so close it's there. But to me, you can't get the classic unless you're in that classic amp. Now, I may be wrong about that. I may be just talking smack here today, but I know what I like. I know what I grew up with, and that's what I hear. Where the younger generation has grown up with what they grew up with, and I understand that too.
Understood.
But
I want to point out to our viewers, you can look at them, Marv, but you've done such a brilliant job of organizing this journey that you've been on and the influences that you've had. You mentioned Black Hawk earlier. You've got a great portrait of your band Black Hawk. Right to the left of it is a big honor. Bob Blair has brought out people that are men of rock for a calendar each year, and you made that in 2017.
2017,
just a fabulous picture of you, and what a recognizable moment and fun moment that must have been for you.
It was, when Bob reached out to me about the upcoming August that year, I was just grateful and humble for that.
I can imagine that had to be,
because he always has support local music. He always comes to your shows if you're local and takes the pictures and stuff. And it just, when he asked me about this, I was like, and somebody asked me, how'd you get your picture on there? I said, well, you had to be playing guitar 50-some years. That's all I can tell you, you know.
And there you are in Daytona, Florida, playing your heart out. How about that?
We were with Molly Hatchet that night. And in fact, there's their set list that night when they played ahead of us.
Wow.
Yeah, of course, all them guys there didn't go on the originals.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they have.
And Bobby Ingram, he keeps the band going, but it ain't the same Molly Hatchet.
Understood.
And then this is the 7 bluegrass CDs that we have out.
Just so well laid out there. What a nice display. A lot of heart and soul in there.
Oh, it is. It really is. It sure
really is.
You know.
My
and
goodness.
Of course, there's a guitar with booze in it.
And the bus that we talked about, that was that was what a great looking rig that was.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
That was really, really nice. That's for sure.
It was a nice ride. I will say that it was nice, and you got you out all the motel rooms because it's just hard for a whole band to sleep in a motel.
Sure it is.
You know, everybody's on cots and stuff, and up all hours of the night. So then you get into 2 rooms, then it's more expensive. And we used to try to get some of the venues to put us up, you know.
Right.
Then you find out the places they put you up, you rather just got your own room, you know.
Yeah, I've heard those horror stories.
The rat holes, I call them, you know. But then, and then there's a lot of pictures of all the fans that comes to the shows. And lo and behold, there's you on that picture.
How about that? Yeah, the Musicians Cafe for your interview. That's outstanding.
This is some of my electric guitars here.
Yeah, your guitar alley.
Yeah, the guitar alley. Most of them, my Gibsons, are here. And they're all left-handed, too. How about that?
That's the thing that's really impressive.
Yeah.
You've been managed to find all the popular styles, and you found them in the left hand. All of them were made left-handed. You didn't change the videos yourself, right? They're all made left-handed.
I've been through those days.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Early days of that, I went through all that. No, not no more. See, like this guitar in the 80s, Stormtrooper, that's right-handed guitar, you know. So you just, and there's my grandfather's guitar that's in the case. I flipped the pick guard so it looked left-handed, but there's his wear and tear from his elbow area. But I never did get to see him play that. But I recorded one song, "Dust My Broom," with it, and then I retired it. You know.
It's a beautiful guitar, and you have it displayed so well, and such an honor to him for sure. That's true. A tribute to him, I should say.
Yes.
And you've got more amps, more stuff that you've had out there. Your original one from back. Did you have the Fender over there originally from the 70s?
Yeah, that one has been with me since '74. You know, and then the Lab Series amps. You know, a little history on them. Gibson, when they decided to quit making amplifiers, they went to the Lab Series in the '70s. And that was kind of the downfall of their amplifiers because they changed the name.
I got
if they'd have kept Gibson on it,
I
think they would have stayed there a little longer. They're okay, you know. It's not an amp that I would, if I was on the road playing rock and roll, I wouldn't use it, you know, because it's all solid state.
Right. Understood.
The old Ampeg, that's from the '70s. That's all tube. That's a beast. That weighs ton. You know?
And look at that gigantic banner from you guys being up at Little Sturgis and Little Orleans up there.
Yes, we rolled in there that day for the show, and it's like, well, look at that. That's cool. I got to have that. Took me a year later to get it, but I got it.
You did get it.
Yeah, and then I had it for, I don't know, another 6 years before I had the wall space to put it on, you know.
That's a good picture of you guys, man. It looks great.
No,
for
thank
sure.
you. Yeah.
And much more of the people that you played with, the places that you played.
Yeah.
You know, Orfordburg, Pennsylvania, and Blue Ridge Summit, Pennsylvania. It's just so intoxicating is the only word I could come up with for this, Marv. It's just a beautiful place to come down here. And I'm sure it's soothing to you, right?
Yes, it is. It is. I spend every evening down here. And when I'm in my museum at night, I very seldom ever play any bluegrass because I always play so much of that. But what I want to listen to when I come down here is like BTO, Canned Heat, Guess Who, Johnny Winter, Grand Funk. That's what I'm listening to when I'm down here. You know, it's not the bluegrass. I love it, but I eat and play so much of that. You know, it's like it gives me a chance to escape back to my '70s of cutting teeth with rock and roll. And then a lot of these pictures, unfortunately, a lot of these folks in these pictures are gone now too that I played with. You know.
That you're keeping their memory alive.
Oh,
That's really great. And people are going to recognize it, you know, years to come because you've got it all organized, labeled, where it was.
Where it was.
Fabulous. Just fabulous.
Yeah, I thought about when I talked to my sons about it, maybe when the time comes that I expire, just have an open house here, and anybody wants to come and take whatever picture they want after my sons get done with it, they're welcome to take them.
That's
Because if not, they'll probably have them in a box somewhere in the Goodwill store or something.
they can't mess this up, Marv. This is beautiful. Oh my gosh.
But it's just, it's just different change, change of the guard, as they say. But
and you got more to come. There's another whole room here.
Yeah, and this is an old Gill guitar here that a friend of mine, he's passed away now too, Mike Sperling. When I got it from him for $40 back in the early 80s, it actually played good, but it's so short scale neck. You couldn't solo up in here nowheres. And I never forget Danny Lingo one night, he was running our sound. He said, "Man, that's the best sounding guitar I ever heard you play." But he was handicapped with it. So I had repainted it brown, and then I gave it to my youngest son, and he painted it red, and then it got sanded down. But somehow over all these years, all the parts got lost. I have no idea where they're at.
Wow. It's good that you kept the skeleton of it. It's great.
Yeah, I figure, it's in memory of Bubba,
Yeah.
He was a good guy,
Absolutely. And Danny Lingo, you mentioned him.
Good old Danny,
recognizable name from around the area.
He's great,
for sure.
man. He's been a friend for a long time.
And this is stuff you've collected, like
these mostly
show bills, and
show posters, and all the guitar picks I've collected over my lifetime, and still collect them as I see different ones.
And it looks like you're having Van Halen come over later on tonight. We're going to do some music here. This is great looking.
This is some of the stuff that was left over from the Black Hawk.
I was going to say these are left over from your rock days.
Yeah. And then
fabulous.
Here's like the second version of that PV standard I was telling you about.
Okay, yeah.
And then Earth came out with the same deal, and they PV always tried to sue them because all the Earth amps looked just like the PV stuff, And that's an early prototype of the musician head.
Wow.
There's a third type there, and the second one's over in the other room too.
Golly, yeah, beautiful. Just beautiful. You kept it so pristine.
Yeah, I tried to.
Brushed off the road dirt and
made
it look great.
This is what I play my music on, man.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. You put Grand Funk or Johnny Winter in here, you gotta
have a little punch.
Yeah, you gotta punch.
I see. Yeah, you got your power amps and everything ready to go there. That's cool.
There's a few more guitars here,
Yeah. We talked about that. You had mentioned you really had you enjoyed this guitar and Ibanez very much.
Yeah, that's a 1978 lawsuit guitar, they call it. It's all vintage pickups. I would put it up against any of the Gibson Les Pauls.
Isn't that something?
The same way with the Epiphone. It's a sweet guitar, and more people are starting to use them. And the Eastwood, they specialize a little more in making left-handed stuff.
Right.
So that's why I got a copy of the Most Right and the Gibson Modern, because you can't even touch them now for $10,000, if it was a Gibson. So.
My goodness.
And then this was our original banner.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, from our very first CD cover, Route 9 to Berkeley Springs. A lady out in Oklahoma made that for us. And we set it up as a backdrop, and then it just got to the point, second CD come out, third CD, so you quit using it.
Sure, yeah.
So it took a few years before I had wall space to put that up, too.
But again, a perfect backdrop to, to more of your guitars. I mean, what a fabulous way.
Need more guitars to cover it up.
Yes, I think you're right on something there.
No.
And the endless museum we have, which is so great.
Yeah, and this is a lot of memorabilia stuff in here that fans have sent me, from Lego set to whatever else you see. Dick Smothers gave me that.
Dick Smothers, how about that?
1991, I was doing a little music with him, and
everybody has to be 45 or older maybe to know who Dick Smothers is, but amazing. They had a great show at the time, a very, very popular comedian, and so, that's great.
Yeah, and we just lost Tommy.
Yeah.
He was a yo-yo man, Tommy was.
That's right. That's correct. Yes, he was really big into that. That's correct.
Yeah, and Tommy, he ended up owning the vineyard, and I think he sold it before he passed away. And Dick lives in Florida now.
Does he really?
But, it was good meeting him and hanging out with him for a few nights.
You've got picture after picture.
Yes.
My big head is hiding one from Willard Scott here, but just the people that you've met on your journey, Marvin, it's just fabulous.
That's to say, I love them all. Without the fans and the folks that come to see us, we wouldn't have been able to do any of this. We wouldn't exist because these fans, most of these fans you see in these pictures, they've all become good friends to me too.
Right.
We meet them down the road, and like you say, they would eat dinner with us, and then they were friends, and they check on me all the time, see how my health is, and when you ever going to come back down this way, and I miss them. I really do. I miss the fans.
Is it possible for you to figure out a single biggest influence that you've had on you musically?
Musically.
Is that?
I would say, other than the playing part, my grandfather, I would say the people that I meet.
The people. That's kind of thought that.
It's what makes it, You'll get people, like I say, it don't matter what you play, you're not their cup of tea. So we'll get people that won't like what we do, but then we got hundreds that love what we do. So it's just, and that's what makes it worth it,
Right.
And I think I mentioned on the podcast, Jimmy Martin, King of Bluegrass, he said it just straight up one night. He says, if you don't like us, take your ass down the highway because we got people that love us. And that's the way I always feel it. You love what we do, and or you don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people say they didn't like Eric Clapton. Who would not like Eric Clapton as a guitar player? But there's some people that don't like him.
Right.
So, it's like, peanut butter and jelly, I like peanut butter and jelly. A lot of people don't. So it's just like, but no, the people is what really you look forward to seeing,
Right.
like when we played the show July the 12th here this summer over at the Ice House, outdoor concert. My 8th grade English teacher and his wife came to see me from Robert E. Ayler, Mr. and Mrs. Austin Grimm, 93 years old. And I thought, I didn't recognize him, but when he came up to me and says, I think I know you. I said, well, I don't know if you do or not. He said, well, we've been school. I said, well, I'm not from here. Because he's from Berkeley Springs.
Yeah.
He said, nah. He said it would be Virginia. I said, well, yeah, I grew up in Winchester. He said, Robert E. Ayler. I said, yeah, he's from Austin Grimm. So anyways, like they came up to see me, and that's the first time I seen him in 50 years. But it's like, and he really enjoyed it. They stayed all night and talked to him before they left,
The connections that you
the
made,
connections,
Yeah.
So it was great to see him. So that's what it's really about, is the people, is they make an effort, and that's why I feel about playing local in Winchester, even though it's my hometown. If I played 6 shows down there a year, everybody would be like, well, let's see. Oh, he coming next month on such. We'll wait then.
Yeah.
Or he's going to be here in October. We'll go see him then. Now, if I pull off a show once in Virginia, I can pack them in there. Because everybody's ready to come see you.
Yeah.
And of course, if not, you wear them out. And that's what I mentioned in the book.
Yeah,
and I think
sure did.
On the podcast, when we were in Florida, a band from Frederick, Maryland, they were called 69 Band. An old Bluebird bus. They was getting ready to hit the big circus to play with Steppenwolf out there. And we all sat on stage every night we did, telling the stories and stuff, trying to stay out of trouble. And he told me one time, he says, there's only 2 ways to play your music. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, well, you play your circle around your town and you wear everybody out. Everybody's coming's going to know exactly what song you're playing. Or you go out of that circle and take as far as you can take it. And he says, then you can keep playing the same music. And when you only go there once a year, they don't remember what you played last year.
Right.
And that's what worked for us. That's what worked for High Octane.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what's got to happen this time. Going to make it happen, because you can't play local all the time.
I think everybody can relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
That's well put because
not everybody's going to come see you if you're playing 5-6 times in Winchester this summer.
Right.
It's like, no, when I come to town, I want it to be a big bash, I want everybody to come. Our old buddy
And they always do.
He does, yeah.
Dave Yarbrough, doesn't he?
Dave Yarbrough does. He's a trooper.
Yes, he is.
Yep, love him to death, man.
We took a little walk through your house
Yes.
and museum, and you have your guitars displayed so wonderfully. you have your acoustics, you have your electrics. As a guitar player, do you have a preference? Do you like one over the other? Or?
Oh, absolutely. When it comes to the Martin for bluegrass, I won't step outside of that box. And especially the one I got, it's almost 30 years old now. It was just truly a great guitar from the get-go.
Okay.
I would say of all the guitars I have, it's the guitar that is priceless to me. As long as I'm playing, I wouldn't take 10 grand for it or more, because it has the thump. It has the bluegrass sound.
They're known for that.
Yes.
Yep.
And in 2006, I had Martin custom make me a HD28, which I thought that was the whistle and bells, the Cadillac boy. I thought that was it. And I'll never forget, I went to a rehearsal. I was playing with the old timers at that time. And I went over to Hancock, Maryland, sit in to rehearse. And one of the old fellers there, Coy, he's gone now too. And I told him, I said, just ordered me a new guitar. He said, you did? I said, what? I said, an HD28 custom, vintage top, everything. Well, it ain't going to sound like the one you got. That's what he told me. It's like, jinx me. That guitar, I got that guitar. I was so unhappy. I took it back to Martin 3 times. It just didn't thump. You know what I mean? It had a sound. It was good. But when you kicked into it, it just died.
Right.
It just died.
Right.
Where this one, the harder you kick into it, the more it's going to thump, So when it comes to the acoustics, I like the Martin for the bluegrass.
Yeah.
Now, a couple of recordings I just did with a good friend of mine, Scarlett, a Brandy Carlisle song and a Melanie song. I used my Taylor on that because that's more appropriate for that.
Right.
I don't need that Martin sound for that, And then when it comes to rock and roll, I prefer the Gibsons,
Right. Understood.
Just like them, like
You've always
that.
been a Gibson guy.
Yeah, SG's, good for slide. I like,
Yeah.
And so anyway, but it's just preference,
Do you happen to have a favorite venue over all these years? Was there one that stood out more than any of the others?
Oh gosh.
That's a tough question, I'm sure.
Yeah,
You've done
because
thousands.
I love Jerry Sells. Jerry Sells is so good to us in the band. And I think the world of him and think the world of his place. And it's a great venue.
It really is.
It really
we
is.
Need to support him.
He treats us like we're royalty when we go there. And thumbs up for him. But then, we do shows like at the Black Rock Arts Center down in Maryland. I believe it might be Greenbelt, somewhere around in that area. But the theater inside is just awesome. You don't even mic nothing. They built this whole theater where it's all wood and you walk in. And when you just like pick a string, like ding, you just hear it ring out through the whole theater. It's got a balcony and everything. So shows like that it's sweet to play too,
Sure.
And then you get some that Willing Jamboree was a nice show because it's on the radio worldwide.
Sure.
The longest radio show I think still going in America. If he still has it going, I hope he does. We haven't been there for a while. And they got video. They had good video archive of your show. But like I said, I didn't like the way he spread us out on stage. And I always said, if we're going back, no, that's not how I came. We're going to them 2 mics because I seen he let hillbilly gypsies get by with us. So I was like, you let them get by with it, you gotta let me get by with it. So, but no, there's been a lot of good shows. Red Barn Radio, in Lexington, Kentucky. That's a great venue. And then, then you have places, like Percy Polly's in Kernersville, North Carolina. Great place, great turnout.
Right.
People come see you. Food's good. So every now and then you get one that's just on the raunchy side.
Right.
And it's just could care less whether you're there or not. You're there to help them sell food. Oh, and another great one we've always played too. Was in I gotta think of the name of it now. I opened my mouth too soon. It was in North Carolina. A fellow by the name of Blake ran the place. It was a big steakhouse. Ain't that awful? I can't even plug him right now. I look around. I got a book of matches over there somewhere. His name on it. But anyway, that was a great venue.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've had so many.
Yes, it's right outside of Asheville, North Carolina.
Gotcha.
It's Bear something. I Ain't that awful?
It'll jump in your
He
mind.
see this video, he'll shoot me, he'll send me a letter. I'll never play here again if you ever get well.
We'll get it before it's over, I guarantee you.
Mr. Bryan to edit it in there. That'd be a technicality. But anyway, that's a great place to play, So there's been a lot of them, and like I say, some of them, they, don't treat you as well,
A moment that always is very important for any musician is when they get to meet someone who's well-known, famous, whatever you want to call it. And you mentioned earlier you played with Molly Hatchet, which, at one time was right in that big
them boys,
boom of...
They were the badass.
They were great. They were great.
Yeah.
Along the way, some of those that you can talk about, I mean, it could be any genre. It could be bluegrass, it could be rock. Name some of the folks that you still...
like Rhonda Vincent, we played on several bills of hers. And then at that time, she had Josh Williams playing guitar, super flat picker,
Yeah.
Because I picked on him in the first night we met him, I told the guys, I said, just watch this. So I went up there and he was on stage. They get ready to do their sound check first. I said, you stick around long enough, I'll show you some licks on that guitar. He just laughed at me, But yeah, met him and then, met Ralph Stanley, met, Ricky Skaggs.
Oh my, nice.
Claire Lynch. The list just goes on and on, And they're pretty much just Larry Sparks. They're all like us.
Yeah, right.
They're just there to have a good time and make music, try to make their fans happy, And they treat you good, Every now and then you'll get one that, might turn their back on you, like, they don't give you time of day to talk to you, but that's a personal problem you got, buddy.
That's right.
Tell you,
that's right.
It's like, but no, most part they're all good.
By and large, they're always
down to earth.
Yes.
Just down to earth. They just don't. We all don't. In fact, I remember seeing a statement that the guy did Blue Suede Shoes. What was his name?
Well, of course, everybody knows that.
Oh, I know, but the original one, the wrote it.
Colonel Tom Parker didn't write that.
No, that was Elvis's.
That's what I thought. I'm trying to think who wrote that song. It's showing our age again.
I know, that's good, yeah, it's called memory disease, ain't it? Yeah. But anyway, I remember watching him talk about playing music. And he says, it doesn't matter whether you're at this level or you're at this level. When you hit that stage, you play the professional as you can be, because that's what's going to relate people relate to.
Yeah.
Don't go in there and be drinking and being half drunk and all that. And I didn't tolerate that either. In the years ago, in the early days of rock and roll, I put up with that stuff. Had to haul drunk asses up the road just to be able to play a show.
Right.
And I was like, nah, my day's that over with,
What sort of, did you, and I'm glad you opened that chapter. Was that a lot of issues with that? You mentioned you kept that out of your band.
Yes.
Was it a struggle to keep it out of your band?
Yes. For me, I never had no problem with it. Music was the ultimate high. I didn't have to worry about doing drugs. Didn't have to worry about drinking to get my high to play music.
Right.
And what I noticed when I had guys in the band that would do that, they sound worse than they did if they wasn't. They think they're in the mind that they're awesome. They think they're really hitting it on all 10 pegs. But they're not. They're just assing it all up.
Right.
And so I never had to get into that. But yeah, we would get to joints, especially in the rock and roll days, where the drugs would just be everywhere. And, people drunk. I remember my old buddy Mike Sperling, he liked to drink too. And he would run, in the beginning, he was our flight guy in the Stormtrooper days. And,
right.
And I'm not talking about him because I love him just like a brother. I miss him, But I had a problem with his drinking. When we, it's because back in those days, he weighed 350, 400 pounds, and you haul him home, and you got to figure out how to get him in the house, It's like, come on, and they won't fall on you and stuff. So when I hired him to do sound for Black Hawk, I told him, I said, he won't be none of that drinking stuff here tonight, buddy. Yeah, he was good.
He was good about it, yeah.
Didn't have to worry about it no more, And then he grew out of all that, and then he passed away with heart disease. But he was a lifelong friend from third grade of school, and we had a lot of respect for each other.
Sure.
But many times I would have to set him straight at the parties, I guess he'd be getting out of hand, But that was him, and along with a bunch of others,
Yeah.
And that was the thing, like going back to the Stormtrooper, when we got into the heavy metal thing. Frankie Myers had painted this big life-size demon that had lights in its eyes. And I'll never forget the first night going to Underground to play. It was in the wintertime, and we had a thunder snowstorm.
Okay.
I remember looking at Ronnie, and Ronnie remembers this to this day. He's like, we got the devil in the band. Devil in the band. It's like that thing was like, and fights like everywhere we played. There was so many fights. People, women fighting, and people grabbing 2x4s and flipping tables and stuff. And it's like, and then I just always kept in the back of my mind my father saying, "That's double music, son. That's double music, son." So that was a different area than the classic and southern rock. I didn't see much of that in black all day,
Right.
but something about that heavy metal. I don't know. They just get all wound up with it, back then.
Yeah.
So like I say, it just, that moved on too,
So many stories.
Yeah, so many stories.
Marv, your career was laid out in front of us,
Yes.
but what a marvelous career
Well, thank you.
that
Thank you.
you've had, and the successes and the highs and the lows are all felt. Are you satisfied? Will you ever be satisfied with what you've accomplished?
I'm satisfied because I'm at an age now that, life, even if I wasn't sick, life gets harder for us, more aches and pains. But I am satisfied, but I still have the urge to still want to do shows. They might be more low key,
Right.
but I still want to do as much recording as I can
Right.
while I'm here, because that's what's going to keep me going, But I've had a great life with music. I really have. And like I say, it's had its other parts too. But overall, I've been very blessed. God has allowed me to do what I set out to do.
Right.
And
Right.
I thank Him every day for it, And I just pray that I'll get through this hump, get over this hump, and be a lot more of it, To what extent, what level, I don't know. But even, if I can just go in the studio and record a song a month, I'll be happy. Something new, something
That's
new.
true. For people like me and the thousands of fans that you have, when we step back and look at your accomplishments, it's just really breathtaking. It's so
Well,
impressive
you.
and marvelous,
Thank you.
and I just want to thank you for sharing your passion and your gift, because you've changed lives, you've taught people, you have brought joy to folks who maybe didn't have a lot of joy.
Yes, that's right.
And you've done all that in your journey, and you continue to do that. And Marv, that's a gift, and thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm glad to do it because it's like we've played a mini cancer benefit.
Yeah.
And those folks always end up leaving. My good friend was here last year, Troy Stangl. He got diagnosed 6 months after I did with neck cancer. And he's been gone 5 months already.
And that's something.
Yeah, in fact, that's him right there in that picture. He played quite a few shows with us last year. Got in the studio, got a little bit recorded with him in February, but it's just sad to see him go. I miss his phone call, because it's like every week we would talk back and forth. How you doing this week? What you going through this week?
Right.
So it's just sad, but
And you live life to the fullest, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Would you not agree?
Oh yeah,
Live your life.
I definitely try to
Enjoy what you
yes.
can. Yeah, absolutely.
Some days a little harder to get around
Yeah.
than others, but I try to push forward every day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And try to keep it going.
Is this available for everyone? How do they find that?
On route9records.com. In fact, the website now has all the merchandise on it, all the shows, all the sponsors, the bio, and it will have here shortly a digital download page. Will give you access to all the digital download songs.
Right.
So that's being in the works right now.
Right.
But everything you want to know, it's on that site now.
I got
Because
you.
I figure, I am paying for the site every year. Might as well have it all on there.
Sure,
Instead
sure,
of telling
yeah.
you go here, go there. But no, the book and all the CDs, everything's on there.
That's fabulous. The chapter you're working on in your life right now, you've slowed down.
Yep.
Your health is giving you some issues, but music is still a daily
Oh, yeah.
part of your life, right?
Oh, yeah. Down here every night, like I say, listening to it. And when I listen to it, it gets my mind going.
Yeah.
And I say, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I want to record this song. Like the other night I was listening to Johnny Winter captured live Highway 61.
Right.
And it's like, that's badass. I got to record that before I leave here, you know. But then, then after it's all done, then I get ready to go upstairs, and it's like reality setting down. It's like, okay, that's my plans. Might not be God's plans for me to do,
Sure.
but as each day comes along, if I can do that, I will push to do that.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah. So
As REO told us, keep pushing on.
pushing. That's
That's
right.
what they keep pushing on.
Keep
So.
pushing on. That's right.
Marv, it's been a wonderful time
Yes.
getting to know you,
Thank you.
and talking to your story and sharing it with all the folks that are out there listening. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And
Just glad to be here to share it with you.
yeah,
And I appreciate your time today, and our other Bryan Jackson. Without him, we'd be lost today too, wouldn't we?
yeah, that's right. We thank Bryan very much for sure.
The cameraman.
I know one thing that's going to happen is people that are going to see this are going to want to reach out to you about maybe questions they have about.
Yes.
So you do social media, right?
Oh yeah. Yes.
So they can do that and reach you that way, right?
And on the website, there's email and on there, and there's telephone number on there too. So everything's there. If you want to get a hold of me, it's not hard to do.
Fabulous. Thank you. Well,
Brian, I thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure, and what a joy it's been to spend the day with you. And I just hope all the folks out there,
too,
yeah, I hope that they enjoy it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Bryan. This is the corrections that were in the museum when we were down there filming, and it was the part where I was talking about the man that wrote, the artist that wrote the Blue Suede Shoes, and I was stumbling all over and couldn't come up with his name, and many others had done it, but anyway, it was Carl Perkins that had wrote that song. So anyway, that you can take this Carl Perkins and inject that to fix that, that would be cool. And then when we got into where Bryan had asked me about certain venues that I favored the most or liked the most, we were talking about the one in Waynesville, North Carolina, and I couldn't think of the venue's name, but the venue's name was Bogart's, and the owner was Blake Sneed, and they really treated us well. It was a great place to perform, and always treated us like royalty there. So anyway, you can take any of this and make that correction, whether you bounce off me and just inner piece, whatever you got to do. But anyway, thanks again for everything, man. Love you. Have a great day. Bye.
Have mercy, been waiting on the bus all day. Have mercy, been waiting on the bus all day. I got my brown paper bag and my take-home pay. Have mercy, old bus been packed up tight. Have mercy, old bus been packed up tight. But I'll be glad just to get on home tonight. me back. Right on, that bus will guide me back. Well, I'll be riding on the bus till I Cadillac.